Welcome to Khanversations. I'm Muqtedar Khan, your host, and today I'm going to talk to you about the historic and remarkable India-UK free trade agreement. I don't think it's a free trade agreement. It is a bilateral trade agreement. The actual official name is a Comprehensive Economic Trade Agreement. CETA. So I'm going to talk about it briefly, what the contents are, who are the winners and who are the losers. It is very clear to me that India wins big with this particular agreement, and Great Britain was going to come out a loser. Usually, we think of it as a win-win thing, but in terms of relative gains, India gains more out of this, and Great Britain will gain less from it. It will gain, but not as much as India will gain. And it is also possible that it's going to create a lot of domestic political problems for Great Britain, even though it will not create any domestic political problems for India. For India, it's a win-win-win. And if India is able to actually, shall we say, fully capitalize on this particular trade agreement, then India is going to do well. And some of the really optimistic goals that have been set to double the trade by 2030, to reach $100 billion by 2040 in cumulative trade. Right now, the trade is around $56 billion. To take it up to $100 billion in the next few years, those things could happen if India is able to fully capitalize on this. There will be instantaneous gains, obviously, on some products, because there is no need to ramp up production, etc. But the deal is not done yet. The Indian cabinet has to approve it, which is not a bit difficult. There are usually no debates in the Indian parliament, just shouting, etc. And since it is a cabinet meeting alone, it doesn't even require a parliament vote in India. I'm sure that the BJP, which controls the House, will be able to get all of its members or its entire cabinet to vote. It's not a big deal. For the British, it'll be a bit tricky to be able to get this vote passed, because unlike in India, where once the leader decides, everybody has no conscience, nothing else, they don't vote or anything different other than what the party does. That's not necessarily what is going to happen in the British Parliament. So Starmer will actually have to go and sell it very hard, not only to his public, but also to the members of the British Parliament. And most of the Liberals also consider that this was a good deal. This was the best deal that they have got since Brexit. They are also very upset with Brexit. They feel that Brexit has done a lot of harm to the British economy, and this deal, which Starmer defined as India's most comprehensive deal and Great Britain's biggest deal since Brexit, is seen much more positively by the Liberals. The Conservatives and the right-wing people in Britain, they hate it. They really hate it, and Nigel Farage talks about it. I'll make a separate video about Nigel Farage and the right-wing people who hate India. The conservatives, wherever they are, whether they are in England or US or India, their main thing is hating other people. They hate other people. They are racist. They don't respect democracy. They don't respect democratic values. And on top of that, now they have become nationalistic. So they are racist and nationalistic. So people like Nigel Farage also hate this bill because it's going to increase the presence of Indians in the UK marketplace. So more Indians will go and work in UK, even though they may not stay there permanently. Initially, they will go for 3 years, and they can potentially then change their view. So there are some issues there. I will talk about it in the video, in which I will talk about why the Conservatives are so anti this particular deal. And it is quite possible that if this had happened before the election, then Starmer, anybody was advocating for this, would have probably lost the election. So that is the expert opinion in Great Britain. Anyway, let's look at what the key features of the India-UK free trade is. First of all, let me make some 2 or 3 broad comments about it. This deal is important and remarkable because it comes at a time when protectionism is on the rise, when the United States is imposing tariffs on everybody. Okay, and we are talking about deglobalization. The world's fourth and the fifth biggest economies basically come together or rather, the fourth and the sixth biggest economies come together to sign a free trade agreement, which is quite comprehensive. So, in that sense, this is remarkable. This is going against the global trend. The second point that I want to make is that obviously this trade deal benefits India more than it benefits Great Britain, and you will know shortly why. The third point, like I tried to make, is that the British conservatives are not going to like it. They don't like it. They're going to oppose it. And I fear that it could generate more anti-India racism in Great Britain because of this particular deal. Number 4, there's an asymmetry in agricultural exports, which means that India continues to protect its agricultural and dairy market from British exports, as it is trying to do in the deal it is negotiating with the US. But the British agricultural or Indian exports, agricultural and dairy exports to Great Britain are open and without any tariffs. So there's an asymmetry there. British allows Indian exports in a particular sector to Britain, and the reverse is not allowed. At some point, somebody is going to notice it and is going to raise an objection. All right, so what are the key elements of the deal? Those are the broad views that I have about the deal. The key elements are that India will now be able to export 99% of its goods to Great Britain without tariffs. So 99% of the stuff that India is going to export to Great Britain is going to be at zero trade. So it's total free trade nearly for India. But the British goods will continue to get some tariffs. So for example, on things like automobiles, right now it's 100%. So the tariffs on automobiles and automobile parts from Great Britain to India will go down from 100% to 10%. So now you can buy an Aston Martin, you can buy a Jaguar, or you can buy a Land Rover for only 10% customs. But there is a 10% customs, and the same on auto parts. Whereas India's auto parts and India's cars to Great Britain will go at 0% of the tariffs. The whiskey, apparently, this is a big export, I guess. Whiskey producers will also benefit because right now the tariffs are 150%, and the tariffs will come down to 75%. And then after 10 years, it'll become 40%. So the tariffs on whiskey and other such alcoholic drinks will continue to remain at 40%. I guess the Indian government is trying to protect the Indian market. Overall, India's average tariff on British products will drop from 15% to 3%, whereas for Indian products, the average will be just around 0. So in that sense itself, you can see that there is an advantage to the British to India, that everything that India wants to export is going to go without any tariffs, especially jewelry, clothes, a lot of like leather shoes, bags and stuff, a lot of labor-intensive stuff that India manufactures will now be available in the British market at a lower price because there are no tariffs on them. That doesn't mean that they will necessarily sell. It doesn't mean that reduction of tariffs means it increases the quality and appeal of the product. What it does, it reduces the price and makes them more competitive. And so if there are 2 bags, one coming from Bangladesh, one coming from India, and they have the same quality, and if India has 0 tariffs, then obviously the Indian product is going to win out every time. So that is as far as some of the tariffs are concerned. In the services sector is where something interesting has happened. There is going to be more opening of the Indian market to British services. So, for example, during the announcement, Prime Minister Modi announced that Great Britain will be opening 6 universities in India. Now, according to this trade agreement, they will be able to open those. They can be private universities. And British owners can own up to 74% of them. So still 26% of that university will be owned by an Indian. So up to 74% British services, whether they're opening a law company, an insurance firm, a consulting firm, or a private college, which will be for-profit, obviously. All of this the British companies will be able to have up to 74% of the ownership of that. And this is something new, because I think before that it was less than 50% or something. So the British can see Great Britain is a highly service-oriented economy. Nearly 80% of its GDP comes from services, not from manufacturing. So it's a post-industrial country. And therefore, it's very important for Great Britain to have access to India's services sector, because India is growing, and India's service sector is at the moment about 55% of the GDP. Great Britain's is about 80%. And so as India opens its market, the British government feels that they will be able to make more profits in India. But there is also a tricky side to this. There's also something called service and mobility. So there will be visas for Indian professionals now, including musicians, chefs, cooks, and yoga instructors. So a lot of people with these qualifications in India, not British qualifications. So if you have a certificate from some institute in India saying you can cook biryani, you can do yoga, or you can play music, you can all now go to Great Britain and work. Now, this is the tricky part. What it says is that if you're going there for 3 years, so it's more like that, like an Indian company can just transfer you. So instead of transferring you from Mumbai to Calcutta, they might transfer you from Mumbai to London. So you're working for the same company, you go there. And what is interesting is that you will not pay British Social Security taxes anymore. So in the past, if you're working for an Indian company, and you were transferred to Great Britain, not hired in Great Britain, but transferred, so you're not a British person, you're an Indian person, then you had to pay taxes in two countries, so social security taxes. I don't know what the social security taxes in India are, but they are saying they're the same as the British. I really don't know whether India has a social security system. But nevertheless, so the British are saying that you don't have to pay social security, you don't have to pay for national health care expenses, but you could be there for 3 years, and healthcare is free in Great Britain, so you could take advantage of the British health system for 3 years. And a lot of people might also, so you need to get your eyes fixed, or you need to do some major surgeries, which you have been delaying in India. Get your company to transfer you to UK, and then you can get British medicine for free. But there's an additional caveat there, which is a problem, which is that right now all British companies pay some 20% of the salary into the healthcare system, the national insurance, or whatever they call it, NHS. So a company, look at it this way, a company wants a web designer. Okay, they're hiring a web designer, and the salary is £50,000. So when the British company hires somebody for £50,000 in Great Britain, it ends up paying £10,000 to NHS, to the healthcare system, the national insurance system in Great Britain. So they're paying 10% extra. So the cost, in hiring a British person is going to cost them $60,000. But if they bring an Indian for 3 years, then they don't have to pay that 10% extra. So they can bring this Indian for even less than 50, and then they don't also have to pay into the British healthcare system. And so it's a huge advantage for the private companies to hire Indians for 3 years rather than hire British, which means that it is going to impact local employment, it's going to create lots of anger and resentment. And if you were to tuning into some radio shows in Great Britain or watching the shows, this was the big issue on which they were all fighting about it. So, but this is going to be a huge advantage to India, which is going to send a lot of Indians are going to get jobs in Great Britain. And that is what I guess Prime Minister Modi is hoping. Now, I think this is going to also create problems, because uh, Indians are the ones who overstay their visas the most in Great Britain. Increasingly now, people are just going there and staying. Apparently, Sachin Tendulkar lives there now. Virat Kohli has moved to London. That's great. They have lots of money. They'll probably make more money there. They'll pay taxes. I don't know whether they do that or not. But what's going to happen is a lot of these Indians who are going to go work there for 3 years may overstay their visas. And that's going to create more anger, more resentment in Great Britain. And it'll become an election issue for right-wing conservative parties. So anti-India hate is definitely going to increase because of this. And this was something India kept insisting. One of the reasons why this was delayed was because besides opening up the agriculture, which India did, India wanted jobs. India is desperately looking to send its people abroad. It brings in foreign currency, it brings in dollars, and it also creates jobs because Indian economy is not creating jobs, especially for the educated people. So they want to send educated Indians abroad. So this is the current situation. It is expected to double, they say, the trade. We will see. And so let me quickly summarize what the advantages are for the British government. It gives the British government access to the Indian consumer market. There are lower taxes on British automobiles, on Scotch whiskey, and premium expensive food products. And British can send its financial and legal services to India now. There's an important provision in it. It'll protect British intellectual property much better than it did so far. And for the first time, British companies will be able to bid for India's government contracts, which are not national security related. So non-sensitive government contracts. If the Indian government is building a hospital, so British companies can bid for that, which was not allowed until now. So these are the advantages for Great Britain. For India, of course, it gets market access for all its goods at nearly zero tariffs. It boosts service sector. The Indians can do a lot more, provide far more services there. And India's agricultural sector is protected in India, but is able to send rice, fruits, and spices to Great Britain at zero tariffs. So that is a huge advantage for India. Now, let me give you a quick summary of what the total trade was in 2024, so you get an idea of what has changed. So UK's exports to India in 2024 were about, shall we say, 17. These are in pounds. So it's about 17 billion pounds. And the goods were about 7 billion. So the total services was 10 billion and goods were 7 billion pounds. So that is about 17 billion pounds, about 23 billion US dollars, where UK's total exports to India is around 22, 23 billion dollars. UK's imports, which is India's exports, were about 10.8 billion dollars in goods. Which means India has a 3 billion pound advantage over in goods exports. And services is where India is really killing, which is 14.7 billion pounds of services exports to UK, which is 1.5 times the British. And so the India's total comes to about 32 billion pounds. So 32 billion pounds, sorry, in terms of dollars, what it comes to is $32 billion is India's trade, and theirs is about 23. So the total is about $56 trillion. And you can see that for both the countries, services is really more important. Both export more in services than in goods. So that is, I think, the big issue that we need to worry about. And so congratulations to the Indian negotiating team. They did a great job on this, and good luck to the British. I think Starmer is going to get a lot of heat on this deal. I'm surprised that he agreed to some of the provisions in this, which I would not do, especially when the mood in the country is as it is. But I guess the British government is under huge pressure, especially after they, did a massive self goal, which was Brexiting. So their Brexit is gone, and they are struggling to negotiate a deal. They did get a deal with the US, but we don't know the details. It just says 10% tariffs, but we don't know whether that excludes iron and steel or others. And I didn't even look at what Britain actually exports to the US. US is a huge partner of Great Britain. In fact, India is not even in the top 10 of Great Britain's partners. India is, I think, the 11th biggest import partner. That means in terms of imports coming in, and 12th biggest when it comes to exports. So Great Britain is making a great deal of having a bilateral trade agreement with a country which is not at the moment in the top 10 of their trading partners. But this is the first major free trade agreement deal that the British government has got since Brexit, which is comprehensive. As I said, they did get one with US, but I think the details have not yet been finalized. So I hope you found this interesting. So please subscribe to the channel, like this video, press the bell icon, and don't forget to share this video with your socio-political network. Until next time, I'm your host, Muqtedar Khan. Take care.